What will it take for legacy markets to fall? Seems like people aren't afraid of second wave of corona.
Okay, good question. So the first thing that you would look at, and I've been actually looking at it right here. Okay. In order for somebody to say there's something wrong with legacy markets, okay, something's big has got to happen in gold. Okay.
Mhm.
So I know it's a little bit strange, and I'm going to pull it up right here, but how will we know that there's something wrong with legacy markets? Okay. So here I'm looking at gold, and this is a weekly chart, right? So gold came off a little bit last week, and it's come back to this place from February of 2013, which is a previous sort of like falling apart point. So it's come to this big level. And I think if gold holds, all right, and starts rallying again, it'll be a sign that something is wrong with legacy markets. Now, let's define legacy markets. I actually think at this point that there's probably more likely of a problem going to happen in bonds rather than, say, stocks. Okay.
Mhm.
There's going to be a second wave of corona. I don't even know if the first wave's over, to be honest with you. Right.
Yeah.
It just is not getting the headlines it was getting. Okay. Government policy and the elections and a race to see who prints more money is the next big economic issue. I mean, there are people who are getting paid to stay home, right? And I don't see that ending.
Yeah.
So keep a focus. The bond market is the one that's most likely to have problems, and gold is your indicator as to whether or not, legacy has problems. Because if gold is rallying and interest rates are rising, or gold is rallying while bonds are falling, that's when you know there's something wrong with legacy, right? So I'll spare you having to read the whole economics textbook. That's how I report.
Appreciate that, Bill. But yeah, I mean, well said, well said. I mean, I don't really have much to add to that. Obviously, legacy markets and economics is not really my forte, but I mean, I do find it very fascinating that all these protests basically just ended the the quarantine. Like people don't really care anymore. Now, I did see in the news. I think New York has also canceled their curfew, or they're about to cancel their curfew. So it looks like things are definitely about to open up, and I think there definitely is going to be a second wave. I myself haven't really left my house yet, and in about 2 weeks, I only leave when I need to really leave, and I haven't really had a reason to leave yet. But yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely going to be very interesting, especially here in America, as we approach the election cycle, because I don't really know how to even decipher what's going to happen during the elections. I mean, because so much has happened, but in a way, I also feel like it wouldn't really matter in the elections, if that makes sense. I feel like it's still unpredictable. I don't really think. Um, yeah, I think it's still very unpredictable what's going to happen, because we've seen protests happen before and elections not really change much, right? And yeah, that's kind of my take on that. Any comments or thoughts on that, Bill? How all this could change during the election cycle?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm always the guy who, like, I don't know, says outside the box stuff, right? So I was
Uh-huh.
thinking, if I get asked on the show, what's the most outside the box thing that could happen in politics? It would be some sort of like the sequel to a Trump upset, where these
Mhm.
riots galvanize his base,
Yeah.
and they galvanize his base, and the people who are against him are too scared to go to the polling stations or wind up voting via mail or something like that, right? The turnout, even though the public opinion is probably away from Trump,
Hmm.
the actual people who vote may not be, right? You also have to remember, in America, the popular vote does not necessarily guarantee victory, right? If everyone in New York and Los Angeles votes for Joe Biden, that doesn't guarantee a victory.
Right.
So you have to consider everything from stock market behavior to social unrest. Because, you know, if you've asked yourself, what is the stock market smoking? The stock market may be thinking that Trump has a chance. Okay.
Yeah.
And then there's also the flip side that, you know, the only way Joe Biden can get his base to the polls is helicopter money, right? I mean, the Fed printed $2 billion to, you know, the Fed printed $2 billion to save the capital markets. And I know that there are people out there who are suffering, right? They either didn't get they either didn't get a stimulus check or their unemployment wasn't sufficient. So, you know, I think Joe is really going to have to bring the helicopter money to guarantee that he wins, right? Which I think is a big crypto and metals positive. So, you know, and as far as the oxymoron, I guess you could call it, of locking everyone in their house and then having everyone run around on the streets shouting slogans, and, you know, I can just see all the little virus droplets everywhere. I'm like, wow, you know, we human beings are truly amazing creatures. So
yeah. I mean, so I was watching, I think it was an interview or video with Chamath, who's well-known investor, VC, and he's also pro crypto, and he kind of had the same thing, and I think I'd also in a way do kind of agree with him. His thought process was basically that all this is really just social media, or just the media just kind of using hyperbole, right? Because we've seen this before, right? Because if you watch the media, at least most media channels here in America, you would have thought Trump had no chance of winning. Yet when the elections came around, everybody was shocked. I mean, I personally was not shocked, because I did think Trump was going to win, just kind of based on how everything was doing, because I was kind of tuning out the media. And honestly, I think Trump still has a chance to win despite everything that's happening, right? Because, kind of as Bill said, popular vote does not really win you the election. But I mean, his base is still there. I mean, his base isn't really going to, because if you look at every election, the only people that matter are really the people in the middle. Almost, I think it's like 45% of each side will stick to each side, either Democrats or Republicans, no matter what. Okay, so whether there's riots in the streets or no riots, pretty much 90% of the country is locked down with their base. And really the people to win over are the people in the middle. And those people in the middle are very fickle, right? They can kind of be turned very, very quickly on a dime. And I think one of Trump's big calling points has been the economy, or rather the stock market. And I think I was more skeptical when the market crashed. But now, as you've seen, as it's pumping, I think big business and all these other big players would definitely like a pro-business candidate. And I think Biden is not really doing too much to energize his base. And I think just running purely on the slogan of "Get Trump out of office," I don't think that's a winning campaign. I think you have to really bring a very unique value prop. And I think even when you ask Democrats or liberals their perspective, or just their if they know any of Biden's policies, I think very few even know what he does. They just know him as Uncle Joe. I mean, his brand is Uncle Joe, or Creepy Joe in a way. And that's even amongst Democrats and liberals. And I think he really has to have a slam dunk when it comes to a VP pick to really energize the base. So it's definitely unpredictable, but I think in a way, I mean, we can't really count Trump out per se, just based on what the media is telling us. That's kind of just my opinion. Anything to add to that, Bill, before we kind of wrap up?
No, I think that's, you know, right now, today, the election is between Trump and not Trump.
Yeah.
Right. And the
And
question is who turns out.
yeah, yeah. I mean, because for me, I kind of look at this almost purely from a marketing and branding perspective, right? Imagine you're building a business. You can't run your business by saying we're better than the other guy, right? Your business has to be, we give you actual value, right? Like imagine somebody is building a cryptocurrency exchange and just say we're not Binance. I mean that business will be out of business very soon. So I think they definitely can retool the entire marketing and branding campaign. But hey, let us know what you think. Do you think all of this is good or bad? Tell us down in the comments below.